Hi everyone, welcome to Genuine Faith. My name is Tulu and I'm so excited to have this seventh video. I've been counting and this is the seventh video of this channel since it started. I'm really excited to be talking about the seventh day on the seventh video. Yeah, I think that was a beautifully orchestrated coincidence. So yeah, today, as you can see by the title of the video, I want us to talk about God's holy day. I want us to talk about the Sabbath. This is like the almost forgotten commandment because many Christians seem not to preach about it that much, or seem not to actually pay much attention to it. And I wonder if the Bible also has that little attention paid to it. But then we'll discover in the Bible how important it is and what it actually really means in terms of faith, in terms of our relationship with Jesus, our relationship with God. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to go way back to the beginning where this all began, in Genesis, where we find God creating, right? So God created the world in 6 literal days. So, and then on the, we know that he created animals and human beings on the 6th day. And then on the 7th day, we're going to read from Genesis chapter 2. Just grabbing my Bible. We're going to read from Genesis chapter 2. Then what happened on the 7th day? What did God create on the 7th day? Did he create? What did he do on that day? So yep, I have it here. Genesis chapter 2 verse 1 until 3. It says, "So the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made." Verse 3. "And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made." Okay, so we find out what happened on the 7th day. If God had created absolutely everything, up to human beings on the 6th day, what happened on the 7th day? It says that he rested from all his work that he had created. I wonder if God was tired. Do you think God was tired? No, God never gets tired. It says that he doesn't even feel sleepy. He never slumbers or sleeps. So what does this mean that he rested? I think it was just an act, an example set for us that, okay, I'm going to command these people to rest. Let me be the first one. He sort of rested in satisfaction of his work. I think God was reflecting and sitting back, and it says that he didn't just sit back as well or leave the day to be like that, but he put blessings on that day. So I feel like that's the work, or that's the rest that God was doing. He was taking in, absorbing his great beautiful creation, and then also blessing that day, sanctifying it, like setting it apart. That's what to sanctify means, to make it holy, to set it apart and to hallow it. So that's what it means. So this sounds like a very important day for God, because then it's like a memorial of what God did. It's a memorial of his creation. And this is before any nation existed on the earth, right? We can tell that, okay, Adam was probably the only person on the earth resting with God on that first Sabbath day. So I think it was quite interesting, and I think it was the true spirit of rest and the true spirit of what the Sabbath means. Before I go on, I know maybe some people pick up that my voice is a little bit awkward or a little bit weird. I'm recovering from the flu. Thank God I'm feeling better, and I can, I've stopped sneezing and all that funny stuff. So it's just my voice that's left now sounding a bit funny. So to go on, when I think of this, I'm like, okay, so God didn't just create everything and he's like, okay, Adam, you can work now. He creates everything that Adam will work on, because he created the field so that Adam will cultivate it, the animals and everything. But then he also goes a step further and introduces the concept of rest. If it was up to the devil, we would work wire, like we would work until we have burned out. But for God, in God's providence, he saw that we will need to rest, and this was even before sin that God just wanted his people to rest and to have, what can I say, to have a free time where they can spend even more time with him. Okay, so we see that in Exodus chapter 20 now. This is like some years later after Adam. So we see that, okay, Adam has, had many generations. He's had this son, and the son has had a grandson and grandson and grandson, up to the point where it gets to Abraham, and Abraham gets called by God. He has a covenant with God. He walks with God. God promises him, I'm gonna make a nation out of you. All right. And then Abraham has a son. His son is Isaac. Isaac, is also promised by God that, okay, I promised Abraham, I'm gonna also give you, a son. I'm gonna make many nations, of you, Abraham's descendants. So Isaac has Esau and Jacob, and we know that Jacob was the one chosen to carry down this promise. Eventually, Jacob has 12 sons, which become, the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, so we see them now being a nation. And after being a nation, for some time in Egypt, in the land of slavery, God brings them out, and in the wilderness, he gives them the 10 commandments, which we see that, according to the way that they were done, it's like they were sort of a reminder. God had just never written them down before, and this time he wanted to make sure that they are written down, and he just made like an official, how can I say, gathering, an official announcement of these commandments, so that people will not say, I didn't know, or as time goes on, God saw that, okay, maybe oral tradition is not gonna work here. We can't be told by oral story. We need like something written down, something tangible, to go back and always quote, or go back and always see the word of God, which is why I think even now God has made provision for us to have the Bible, to have his laws, his commandments, to have the records of his wonderful dealings, his wonderful love towards men. So I'm so grateful for that. Just that, I think if we were hearing it from our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, it being passed down already like that, sometimes it can, get a bit lost. But having something written down, at least you can pass that down in a better way, so that people won't forget. So anyways, we see them in Exodus 20 being given the 10 commandments, and one of those commandments is found in Exodus chapter 20 verse 8. We are going to read it. This is the commandment that we are talking about today, this special day. Remember, we first saw it in Genesis. This was before the Jewish people existed, but now when they are existing and they're God's special people, God reminds them of the Sabbath day. And I like how it starts. It starts with a particular word. Exodus chapter 20 verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger that is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Okay, so it starts with the word remember. It's sort of like, this was there before. Remember, the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And that makes sense, because we're finding these commandments in Exodus chapter 20, but before they even get the commandments, in Exodus chapter 16, we have records of them keeping the Sabbath day. When they were given manna, and then like the 6 days, manna would rain down, and then on the seventh day, it wouldn't rain down, because it was the Sabbath day and they were not supposed to go out into the fields and look for manna or work. So what would happen is, on the sixth day, God will make the manna to rain down as a double portion. So they could like take two, buckets of manna, collect them, and then the one would stay for the next day, which was really interesting, like a miracle, a special miracle about the Sabbath, because throughout the week, a person was only allowed to take one bucket, and if you kept it like for the next day, then it would rot. But miraculously, on the sixth day, you should take two, and if you keep it for the next day, which was the seventh Sabbath day, then it would not rot. So God was like sort of really putting like a mark on that Sabbath day to say, hey, remember, this is my special day, this is my holy day. I want you to experience blessings. That's all. That's what it's all about, really. From the very beginning, when God created this rest or this Sabbath, it was blessings, blessings, blessings. God blessed, hallowed, sanctified all things to make it beautiful and blessed. Okay, so we see that then it's not a Jewish custom, this Sabbath day. God is so clear that it's not a Jewish custom, it's a God custom, it's a godly custom, because God made it way before Abraham existed. God blessed the Sabbath day. God rested on the Sabbath day way before the Israelite or Jewish nation could exist. So that's powerful, because in the commandment it also goes to say that you will rest, your children will rest, your animals will rest, and even the foreigner or the stranger that is within your gates. So God is trying to tell them that it's not a Jewish thing. Not only the Jewish people will rest, but if you ever have a foreigner, they must also rest on the Sabbath day. They must also experience this blessing. So it's really a thing for human beings, for all humanity, not for just one particular nation, this Sabbath day of God. Okay, and we also see that especially on Mark chapter 2 verse 27, which says, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. So these are the words of Christ. Christ could have easily said the Sabbath was made for Jewish people and not Jewish people for the Sabbath. But no, he doesn't say that. He says for man, which means mankind or humanity. The Sabbath was made for humanity and not humanity for the Sabbath. In other words, the Sabbath was made to benefit every single human being. It's a sign between God and every single human being. So and Jesus wouldn't lie about that. Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath, as it says in verse 28 of Mark chapter 2. The Son of Man is therefore also Lord of the Sabbath. As Lord of the Sabbath, he knows exactly who is supposed to keep the Sabbath, and he specifies that it's not just Jews, it's man, it's all humanity. Okay, so but then did Jesus himself actually keep the Sabbath? Because some people say that, well, Jesus didn't keep the Sabbath day, and they're getting confused or misinterpreting the Pharisees, because the Pharisees were always on Jesus's case, trying to make him look like he's breaking the Sabbath day. They would plot against him, follow him when he's healing people, and say, why are you doing that? But each and every time he would answer them and make it very clear to them that actually, I am not the one who's breaking the commandments of God. I'm not the one who's breaking the Sabbath day, but you are, because you do not have the true spirit of obeying God. Jesus showed the true spirit of obeying God. He showed genuine faith. He showed a love for God and a love for humanity, which are very important principles in order to be able to keep the commandments of God. I think we discovered that in a previous video where we talked about God's commandments and what spirit actually actuates us keeping God's commandments holy. So we can read one of these incidents from Luke chapter 6 verse 6 to 11. We just want to see what the mistaken or misled Jewish leaders were accusing Jesus of. Luke chapter 6 verse 6 to 11. I'll find it. Okay, 6 verse 6 to 11 says, and it came to pass also on another Sabbath that he entered into the synagogue and taught. Okay, entered into the synagogue and taught, and there was a man whose right hand was withered. So there was a sick man. Verse 7, and the scribes and Pharisees watched him, whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, so that they might find an accusation against him. Verse 8, but he knew their thoughts, and said to the man which had the withered hand, rise up and stand forth in the midst. And he arose and stood forth. Then Jesus said to them, he's asking the Pharisees now, I will ask you one thing. Is it lawful on the Sabbath days to do good or to do evil, to save life or to destroy it? And looking about upon them all, he said unto the man, stretch forth thy hand. And he did so, and his hand was restored whole as the other, and they were filled with madness and communed one with another what they might do to Jesus. So can you see that these people have have lost their relationship with God? They think they're in the right place, but they're filled with madness. They are busy thinking, what can we do to this person who is healing people? So they have completely lost, the true essence of the Sabbath day. Jesus wants to heal a person, and they're busy saying, if he heals him, we can, come up with some accusation, not with facts, but accusations to say he has broken the Sabbath day. But Jesus knows and reads their hearts. He says, wait a minute, can I ask you something? Before he even heals them, and he's like, is it good to heal on the Sabbath or to kill? Because they're busy planning to kill Jesus. And then he asks them, is it good to heal or to kill? And they are dumbfounded. They cannot answer him a word. They're just filled with madness now. So Jesus showed what the Sabbath was all about right from the beginning. Now the Pharisees had made it a burdensome day where, you were scared to even scratch yourself, because you'd be like, am I working? Am I not breaking the Sabbath? People couldn't carry their beds. People whom Jesus healed people, and he's like, carry your bed and walk. This was a day of being relieved. It was being relieved from sickness, being relieved from physical labor, but being also relieved from sin. Because many people of whom Jesus healed, he didn't only just heal their bodies physically, but he also said to them, your sins are forgiven you. And the person walked around with the true joy of God's holy day, knowing that he is forgiven. So he has to rest from his burden of sins. And then the Pharisees would only see one thing on that person. Why are you carrying your bed? So Jesus came to rebuke that spirit, but to actually fulfill the law in its true spirit, in its true picture, in its true essence. This is what it means to keep the Sabbath day. It's not about restrictions at all, but it's about freedom. Even as we discover that all of God's commandments are not about restrictions. It's not only about thou shalt not, thou shalt not. It's all about preserving life, preserving happiness, preserving respect. I think about the commandment of the children obey your parents. It's all about preserving marriage, preserving families. That's why there's, you shall not commit adultery. And then the Sabbath commandment is also about, just preserving joy, restoring. It's all about restoration, restoring happiness, restoring peace, giving rest, relief from burdens, whatever the burden may be. Okay, so since we have discussed that, I want us also to read from Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 12 and 20. I'll just read verse 12. They both say exactly the same thing. It says, moreover, I also gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they may know that I am the Lord that sanctifies them. So it's a sign between God and his people that, okay, God is the one that sanctifies us. God is the one that created us. So we put like a nail on it, or I don't know, a dot on it, that God is the one that created us. Because then if we lose that memorial of God's creation, then there comes up so many other theories that people have. We have things like we came from monkeys. We have so many other theories that we might get from the world around us. But the Sabbath day keeps reminding us that God created us and rested on the seventh day. Okay, so then we saw that Jesus really kept the Sabbath day, but then did his disciples keep the Sabbath day? Yes, of course, when they were with him, but then what happened after Jesus' death? Was it no longer a requirement to keep the Sabbath day holy? Okay, and then we can read from Matthew chapter 24 verse 20. Okay, so in I'll just paraphrase it. In Matthew chapter 24 verse 20, Jesus is telling his disciples what's going to happen in the last days. So he tells them there'll be false Christs, there'll be diseases, there'll be wars, rumors of wars. And also he foretells about the destruction of Jerusalem at the same time. He says, well then, please pray so that when Jerusalem is destroyed, it's not in winter and it's not on the Sabbath day. So we see that he is foretelling that, yes, 40 years after I have died and I'm already in heaven, the Sabbath will still be a thing. My Sabbath days, you will still have to obey them. So pray that it won't be on Sabbath, because it makes sense. If the Jerusalem is invaded while it's Sabbath, many people will be gathered in the synagogues or in church, and then it will be easier for the enemy to attack them. Same thing if it's winter. People will be indoors and it will be easier for the enemy to attack them. So that's why Jesus was like, please pray that this attack will not come on the Sabbath day. And thank God, many years later, when Jerusalem was destroyed, according to history, we can see that it was not on the Sabbath day. So we also see that Paul and the other apostles also keep the Sabbath day holy. We can read from Acts chapter 13 verse 14, verse 42, Acts chapter 16 verse 13, Acts chapter 17 verse 1 and 2, which also says, just like Luke chapter 4 verse 16 says, and as Jesus' custom was, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath. It also says, as Paul's custom was, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath. So we see that he was also keeping God's holy day, the Sabbath, as a day of worship, as a day of rest. Okay, so now I think like all of this should lead to really one last question. Between Sunday, Monday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which day am I, which day is the Sabbath day? Which one is God's holy day? Yes, it's the seventh day, but there are so many calendars. Some of the calendars start with Monday, some of the calendars start with Sunday, other calendars start with Tuesday. So how am I going to know which day should be the last day, which day should be the seventh day? And that's interesting because all over in Christendom, in the whole Christian community, people have a holiday which they celebrate, which is called Easter. And on those days, even in comparison with history books, we know exactly which day Jesus died on, which day he resurrected on. So Jesus died on a Friday, which is called Good Friday, and we can read at Luke chapter 23 verse 52 verse 54 to 56, which explains that on that Friday when he died, the women were coming to try and anoint his body with the spices and whatever for his death. But then they saw that, oh my goodness, the sun is setting,